It didn't start with some huge crash or a scream like you might expect. No, it was just a weird feeling at first. The room suddenly forgot how to breathe. When everything goes too still, too quiet, like the world's holding its breath? That kind of stillness. I didn't even hear the sound at first. If I had, maybe things would have gone differently. Maybe I would have gotten out sooner, before it all got wrong. But sometimes, it's not the big things that trip you up. It's the small stuff, the little shifts you barely notice until it's way too late. That night, I was sitting in my old recliner, half watching some dumb show, half dozing off, when the air in the room seemed to change. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier, like trying to breathe through wet cotton. I remember blinking real slow, thinking maybe it was just me being tired, or the TV acting up. But then the silence pressed in, thick and unnatural, and my skin started crawling like I knew something was off but couldn't say what. Out of habit, I glanced at the clock, 3:17 a.m. Figures. Always 3 a.m. when the weird stuff starts. But it wasn't just the air that felt wrong. The shadows in the corners of the room didn't sit right either, like they were heavier, thicker somehow. Almost like they were watching. I told myself I was being stupid. Long day at work, too much TV, imagination running wild. Nothing to worry about. Still, I couldn't shake that feeling that something in the house had shifted while I wasn't looking. Like a door left ajar when you know you closed it, or a light flickering in a room no one's been in. I sat there, telling myself over and over to ignore it, that it was all in my head. But my hands wouldn't listen, they were gripping the armrests so tight my knuckles turned white. I don't know how long I sat like that, breathing shallow, staring into the places the light didn't reach. Could have been minutes, could have been an hour. But then, there was a noise. At first, it was just a small sound. A soft creak, like someone shifting their weight on an old wooden floor. Nothing big. Nothing that should have scared me. But it did. Because it came from the hallway, the one I knew was empty. The one leading straight to my bedroom. I leaned forward without even thinking, trying to hear better, heart thudding loud enough to drown everything else out. For a second, I thought maybe I imagined it. Maybe the house was settling. Maybe a draft pushed a door. But then it came again. Creak. Closer this time. I swear I could feel it more than hear it, like the house itself was groaning under something moving through it. My mouth went dry. My body screamed at me to do something, get up, check it out, grab something heavy, but I stayed frozen, staring at the dark mouth of the hallway like it might bite. And somewhere deep down, way down where logic doesn't reach, I knew. Whatever was coming, wasn't supposed to be here. I couldn't even tell you when I stood up. 1 second, I was glued to the chair, heart pounding out of my chest. The next, I was on my feet, legs stiff and shaky like they didn't belong to me. I didn't make a sound, not on purpose. It was like some old survival instinct kicked in, and every part of me knew better than to call attention. I edged toward the hallway real slow, every step feeling like it took a year. The kind of slow you do when you're scared of waking something up, even though you don't know what it is. The creaking had stopped by then, but that didn't make it better. Silence can be worse sometimes. It's like when a storm goes dead quiet right before it hits, you just know something's about to happen. I reached the edge of the living room and peered into the dark hallway. It looked normal. It looked exactly the same as always. And somehow, that made it even worse. There wasn't anything there. Just the hallway stretching out in front of me, still and dark, with my bedroom door hanging halfway open like always. No footprints. No movement. Not even a whisper of air. If you had snapped a picture right then, it would have looked totally normal, boring even. Just another late night in an old house. But standing there, skin prickling, heart hammering against my ribs, I knew better. Normal doesn't feel like that. Normal doesn't make the hair on your arms stand up for no reason. I took a step forward without meaning to. And another. The floor under me groaned softly, but I barely heard it over the rush of blood in my ears. Every part of me wanted to turn around, to dive back into the living room, lock the door, pretend nothing had happened. But something stronger, maybe curiosity, maybe stubbornness, kept me moving toward that half-open door. I pushed the door open with just one finger, like somehow using less effort would make it safer. Stupid, I know, but fear doesn't work with logic. The hinges let out a soft squeal, way too loud in that heavy silence. Made me flinch even though I was bracing for it. I held my breath and waited, half expecting something, anything, to come rushing at me out of the dark. But nothing did. The room just sat there, still and ordinary, lit only by the faint glow of the streetlight leaking through the window blinds. My bed was exactly where it should be. My dresser, my old lamp, the pile of dirty laundry I'd been promising to deal with for a week, everything was normal. Too normal. I took one shaky step inside, feeling like I was stepping onto thin ice. And that's when I noticed it. Not the bed. Not the closet. Not the floor. The mirror above my dresser caught my eye, and suddenly everything else faded out: the bed, the laundry, even the open door behind me. It wasn't the way the mirror looked that set my nerves on fire. It was what it didn't reflect. You know how a mirror is supposed to show you exactly what's there? Well, this one didn't. It showed my room, sure, the dresser, the window, the clutter, but not me. I was standing dead center, a few feet away, staring right into it, and it showed nothing. Just an empty room. My heart skipped once, then hammered against my chest like it was trying to break free. I blinked hard, wiped my hands on my jeans, thinking maybe the glass was dirty, maybe the angle was weird, maybe I was losing it. I waved one hand slowly, then the other, feeling like a fool. Still nothing. No arm. No shape. Not even a shadow. The mirror stared back blank and empty, mocking me. I felt sweat gathering at the base of my neck, cold and sticky, and I fought the urge to bolt, to turn and run like a kid scared of the dark. But some part of me, some dumb stubborn part, needed to be sure. Needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. So I did the stupidest thing I could have done. I stepped closer. With every inch I moved forward, the room and the reflection stayed still, perfectly wrong. The dresser looked a little off, like it was leaning when it wasn't supposed to. The window was wider somehow, the blinds drooping like melted wax. And even though my room was dead silent, the air around me buzzed like an invisible swarm of bees was trapped between my skin and the walls. I reached out a hand toward the mirror, telling myself it was just glass, just cheap furniture store junk. My fingers hovered inches away, trembling so bad I thought they'd blur. That's when I saw it. A flicker. Not in the mirror, but inside it. Like something shifting just beneath the surface, quick and slick, like a fish darting in murky water. I yanked my hand back like I touched a live wire, stumbling a few steps away, heart in my throat. But curiosity, that awful, burning curiosity, dragged my eyes back. There was something in there. Something that wasn't part of my room, wasn't part of my world. A smear of movement, so faint you could almost pretend it wasn't real. Almost. I squinted, trying to make it out, a shape maybe? A figure? Then the air changed again. It pressed down on me, thick and greasy, like I was standing under an invisible hand trying to shove me into the floor. My knees buckled a little, and I grabbed the edge of the dresser for balance, knocking over a stack of old mail and a coffee mug in the process. The sound of it crashing to the floor snapped something inside me, a lifeline I didn't know I was holding on to. I backed away, fast, bumping into the bed, barely able to tear my eyes from the mirror. My chest hurt like I'd been sprinting, and I could taste copper at the back of my throat. And still, that thing in the mirror shifted again. Closer this time. Almost like it was noticing me noticing it. Panic clawed up my spine, screaming at me to move, to get out, to leave the damn house and never come back. But my body wouldn't listen. I was frozen, hypnotized by the slow, almost lazy ripple moving through the mirror's surface. I thought about yelling. I thought about calling 911, calling anyone, but deep down I knew, what would I even say? Hi, there's a bad mirror in my house? They'd laugh, or worse, they'd show up and find nothing, and I'd still be stuck here with it. No. This was my problem. Mine to deal with. The thing, whatever it was, rippled again, and for the briefest second, I saw a shape. Vague. Tall. Wrong. It didn't have a face, not really. Just a blur where a head should be, shoulders hunched forward like it was dragging itself toward me across some invisible line. And in that moment, a thought slammed into me with the force of a truck. It wasn't stuck in the mirror. It was trying to get out. The pressure in the room doubled, tripled, like being crushed inside a giant's fist. My ears popped. My vision went blurry at the edges. The buzzing in the air turned into a low, bone-deep hum that rattled my teeth. I staggered backward again, bumping into the wall, gasping for air that felt too thick to breathe. The mirror, or maybe the thing inside it, shuddered once, twice. Then, without warning, a crack raced across the glass like a bolt of lightning. I flinched, throwing my arms up instinctively, expecting the whole thing to explode. But it didn't. It just hung there. A single jagged fracture, running from the top left corner to the bottom right. And behind that crack, the shape pulsed slower now, almost patient. Like it knew I couldn't go anywhere. Like it was waiting. I just stood there, staring at that broken mirror, too scared, too stunned to even breathe right. The crack cut across the glass like a wound, raw and ugly, but it was what lurked behind it that locked me in place. That awful, shifting shape. Still there. Still watching. It didn't move like a person. It pulsed, almost like it was breathing, slow and steady, as if it had all the time in the world and knew it. It was patient. It was sure I'd make a mistake eventually. My whole body screamed at me to run, every nerve, every instinct roaring inside my head. But my legs wouldn't budge. They felt like they'd been rooted to the spot, frozen in place by fear or something worse. I don't know. I don't think I want to know. For a long time, minutes maybe, or just a few heartbeats stretched thin, nothing happened. Just me and it, locked in this awful standoff. And then, something changed. The crack in the mirror began to spread. Tiny little splinters shot off the main line, spiderwebbing outward, each one moving with slow, deliberate cracks that sounded way too loud in the silence. It was like the mirror itself was groaning under the strain, like it couldn't hold that thing inside much longer. I stumbled back another step, bumping into the nightstand and nearly knocking over the old lamp sitting there. The lampshade tilted drunkenly, casting warped shadows across the walls, making everything look twisted and wrong. Panic rose up inside me like a flood, squeezing my chest, making my head spin. I couldn't think straight. Couldn't catch a full breath. I had to get out. Now. But just as I turned, just as I made myself break eye contact and lunge for the door, I heard it. A whisper. So soft I wasn't even sure it was real at first. It sounded like someone saying my name. Not yelling, not calling out. Just whispering. From the mirror. I froze, hand still halfway out toward the doorknob, heart pounding so loud I thought it might drown everything else out. For one stupid, horrible second, I thought about looking back. Some part of me, the smart part, the part that didn't want to die horribly, screamed "no" inside my head. But curiosity is a cruel thing. I turned. Slowly. Reluctantly. Like a moth circling a flame it knows will kill it. And there it was. The thing had gotten closer. Much closer. The shape behind the glass was pressed right up against it now, blurry and shifting, like smoke trapped in a bottle. And even though it still didn't have a face, not really, I could feel it smiling. Not a happy smile. Not even an angry one. A patient smile. The kind of smile that says, "Take your time. I'll be right here." My stomach lurched, and for a second, I thought I was going to throw up right there on the bedroom floor. My hands shook so badly I could barely keep them at my sides. The mirror cracked again, a sharp, sudden sound like a gunshot, and I flinched so hard I nearly lost my balance. A new fracture raced across the glass, kneading the first, carving out a crude, jagged X across the surface. And I swear to God, for one split second, the thing behind the mirror wasn't blurry anymore. It was clear. And it looked exactly like me. Same messy hair, same tired eyes, same ratty old t-shirt I was wearing. But the expression was all wrong. It was too calm, too knowing. It understood something I didn't. And its smile widened, just a fraction. That broke me. I spun around, practically tearing the door off its hinges trying to get out of that room. I didn't look back. Not once. I bolted down the hallway, feet slamming against the floor, breath coming in ragged gasps. The living room blurred past me in a smear of shadows and broken light. I made it to the front door and yanked it open so hard the hinges screeched. Cool night air hit me like a slap, shocking and sharp, and I stumbled out onto the porch, sucking it into my burning lungs. For a second, I just stood there, bent over, hands on my knees, trying to remember how to breathe. Behind me, the house loomed silent and still. No movement. No noise. Nothing. If anyone had driven past just then, they would have seen nothing but a regular old guy standing in front of a regular old house, looking like he'd seen a ghost. But I knew better. I backed down the porch steps, never taking my eyes off the front door. Half expecting it to fly open, for that thing, that me but not me, to come rushing out after me. But nothing happened. The door stayed shut. The windows stayed dark. And after a few minutes, the night swallowed the house whole. I stumbled to my truck, fumbling the keys with shaking hands, and climbed inside, locking the doors behind me like that would do a damn thing if it really wanted to follow. I didn't even think about where I was going. I just drove. I drove like a man possessed, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel, eyes darting from the road ahead to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The night outside was thick and endless, broken only by the weak cone of my headlights and the occasional lonely mailbox flashing by. My heart hadn't slowed down even a little. It thudded in my chest like a fist pounding on a door, over and over, relentless. I didn't have a plan. Didn't know where I was going. I just needed distance, needed something solid between me and whatever the hell was in that house. But no matter how far I drove, the tight, crawling feeling under my skin didn't fade. It stayed right there, buzzing low in my bones, whispering that running wasn't enough. I passed the gas station at the edge of town, the one that's always half-lit and looks abandoned even when it's open, and thought about stopping. Maybe calling someone. Maybe getting a motel room and locking myself inside with the lights on and a Bible clutched to my chest. But I didn't. Because deep down, I already knew no one could help me with this. I kept driving. Roads I knew by heart blurred past Elm Street, Oak Ridge Drive, the empty stretch near Miller's farm that always smelled like wet dirt even in summer. Each mile put more distance between me and that mirror. And yet, somehow, it felt like the thing was riding with me. Like it had stitched itself into my shadow. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles aching, jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. The dashboard clock blinked 3:49 a.m. Still middle of the night. Still the hour where nothing good happens. At some point, the adrenaline started to wear off. The panic ebbed into something worse, something slow and heavy, like grief. And then the questions started creeping in. What if it hadn't been real? What if I'd imagined the whole thing, the shadows, the cracked glass, the geek copy of me? God knows I hadn't been sleeping right for weeks. Work had been hell lately. Money stress, family drama, nights spent half watching junk TV until my eyes crossed, it all added up. Maybe my brain just cracked a little. Maybe it was nothing more than a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I laughed under my breath, a short, broken sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me. Right. And maybe pigs fly. I rubbed my face hard with both hands, trying to scrub the images out of my head, but they stuck like gum to the bottom of a shoe. The mirror. The crack. The thing smiling with my own face. No amount of its just stress was going to erase that. I pulled into an empty parking lot behind an old diner that hadn't been open since the pandemic hit. The closed sign hung crooked in the window, and weeds pushed up through the cracked asphalt. It wasn't safe, not really. Nowhere was. But I couldn't drive forever. I killed the engine and sat there in the dark, listening to the tick-tick-tick of the cooling metal and the shrill chorus of crickets outside. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Just a guy taking a break on a long, lonely night. Almost. Until I looked in the rearview mirror. And saw something move. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light headlights from a car passing on the road maybe, or a branch swaying in the breeze. But there was no breeze. And no cars. And the shape wasn't outside. It was in the back seat. I froze, every muscle locking tight, breath catching in my throat. Slowly, like peeling off a bandage, I turned my head to look. Nothing. The back seat was empty. Just an old blanket, a few fast food wrappers, and the cheap air freshener swinging lazily from the ceiling hook. But when I looked back at the mirror, the shape was still there. Closer now. Clearer. A silhouette that matched mine a little too well. Same slope of the shoulders. Same messy hair. Just sitting there. Smiling. That same patient, awful smile. I didn't think. Didn't rationalize. I just threw the truck into drive and peeled out of that parking lot. My life depended on it, because maybe it did. The tires screeched against the broken pavement, and for a moment, the only thing louder was my own breathing, harsh and ragged in my ears. I didn't look back. Couldn't. Not even when the truck fishtailed a little and the smell of burning rubber filled the cab. I just kept driving. Faster. Farther. Deeper into the night. Away from the town. Away from the mirror. Away from whatever had climbed out of it. I don't know how long I drove after that. The miles peeled away under the tires, the road unspooling in a blur of blacktop and broken white lines. I wasn't thinking. Not clearly, anyway. Just running on raw fear and instinct, same way a deer bolts when it catches a whiff of a predator. But fear's a funny thing. It burns hot at first, blinding, explosive, then it burns out. Leaves you cold and shaky and thinking way too much. Somewhere past the edge of town, where the fields stretch out flat and endless under the night sky, my hands stopped shaking enough for me to realize I couldn't just drive forever. I had to figure this out. Had to think. Because whatever that thing was, it wasn't just in my house anymore. It was in me, maybe. And there's not a truck fast enough or a road long enough to outrun something like that. I pulled over on the shoulder, the tires crunching over gravel, and sat there with the engine idling low, my headlights cutting two weak cones into the darkness. The night was deathly still. No wind. No cars. Just me and the empty fields and the heavy knowledge pressing down on my chest. I gripped the steering wheel so hard it creaked under my fingers. Think, I muttered to myself, voice rough and unfamiliar in the tight cab. Think, damn it. Panic wasn't going to save me. Blind running wasn't going to save me. If anything, it would just make it easier for that thing, whatever it was, to catch up. I needed a plan. First step, figure out what the hell I was dealing with. It wasn't just a ghost. Ghosts don't smile like that. Don't climb into your back seat and sit there, wearing your own face like a second skin. This was something else. A mirror thing. A reflection gone wrong. I shuddered, wiping a clammy hand across my forehead. Whatever it was, it had gotten out. Out of the mirror. Out of the house. And it was attached to me now. The thought hit me like a punch to the gut. Attached. Following. Feeding maybe. God, what if it got stronger the more I ran? What if my fear was exactly what it wanted? I slammed my palm against the steering wheel in frustration, the horn giving a weak, miserable bleat that sounded way too loud in the silence. I had to stop reacting. Had to stop giving it what it wanted. If fear fed it, then I needed to do the opposite. Stay calm. Stay in control. Easier said than done when every hair on your body's standing on end and your gut's tying itself into knots. But I had to try. I killed the engine, plunging the truck into darkness, and sat there breathing slow and steady, counting each breath like a lifeline. 1, 2, 3. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The dark pressed in on all sides, thick and heavy, but I didn't flinch. Didn't look around. I kept my eyes closed and focused on the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Slowly, the pounding in my head eased a little. My hands stopped trembling so bad. When I opened my eyes again, the mirror on the windshield showed nothing but empty darkness behind me. No shapes, no smiles. For now. But I knew better than to think it was gone. It was just waiting, watching. That was its game, patience. It wanted me to crack first. And honestly, it wouldn't take much. I thought about calling someone, friends, family, anyone, but what would I even say? Hey, remember that creepy story about reflections coming to life? Yeah, it's real. Wanna come help? Right. They'd either laugh or think I'd finally lost it. And if I was wrong, if this was some kind of breakdown, dragging someone else into it would just make it worse. No. This was my mess. Mine to deal with. I thought back to all those dumb horror movies I'd watched growing up, the ones where idiots always made everything worse by splitting up or hiding instead of facing the problem head-on. Maybe the answer was back at the house. Back where it started. The idea made my stomach twist, but a stubborn ember lit up inside me too. If it came from the mirror, maybe that's where it needed to be dealt with. Maybe there was still a way to fix this. Or at least contain it. I didn't know. But sitting out here in the dark sure as hell wasn't going to solve anything. I leaned my head back against the seat, closing my eyes again. Just for a second. Just to think. And that's when I heard it. Soft, subtle. The sound of breathing. Not mine. From the back seat. At first, I thought maybe I imagined it. That slow, rhythmic sound, soft, steady, unmistakable. Breathing. But it wasn't coming from me. Mine was shallow, ragged, panicked. This breathing was different. Calm. Measured. Like whoever, whatever, was back there had all the time in the world. My whole body tensed. Hands frozen on my lap. Jaw clenched so tight it ached. I didn't move. Didn't turn. Didn't even breathe for a few seconds, hoping maybe, somehow, it would just go away if I stayed perfectly still. But that was a fantasy. A kid's dream. The kind where you hide under the covers and pretend the monster can't find you. I wasn't a kid anymore. And whatever was sitting in my back seat sure as hell wasn't interested in playing games. The breathing continued, slow and even. It was waiting for me to make the first move. Daring me. Every instinct I had screamed to run, to throw open the door, dive out onto the shoulder, and just keep running until my legs gave out. But that wouldn't fix anything, and if I ran now, I knew deep in my gut it would follow. Closer. Faster. Hungrier. I squeezed my eyes shut, forcing myself to think. You came out here to make a plan, remember? You came out here to stop reacting, to stop feeding it fear. Carefully, I opened my eyes and glanced at the rearview mirror. Nothing. Just the empty darkness of the truck's cab. But the breathing didn't stop. It never even stuttered. My mouth was so dry it felt like it was lined with sandpaper. My pulse hammered in my ears, but I made myself move anyway, slow, deliberate movements, like I was handling something wild and dangerous. I reached for the ignition, fingers brushing the keys, and in that moment, that tiny, flickering second, I caught it. Not in the mirror, not reflected, but in the edge of my vision. A shape, a figure. Sitting in the back seat, patient and still. Wearing my face. But not my expression. It smiled, that same patient, awful smile, and leaned forward just a hair, like it was curious what I would do next. I bit down hard on a scream and twisted the key. The engine coughed, rumbled, came to life. Headlights flicked on, casting long beams across the empty fields. The breathing stayed steady. I didn't wait. I threw the truck into gear and pulled back onto the road, tires kicking up gravel in a burst behind me. The shape didn't move. It just sat there, breathing, smiling, waiting. And somewhere deep inside me, a terrible certainty settled like a stone. This thing wasn't going to kill me. Not fast, anyway. It was going to wear me down. Piece by piece, fear by fear, till there was nothing left but it. Unless I did something first. That thought, tiny, desperate, defiant, sparked in the darkness inside my mind. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles whitening. I couldn't outrun it. I couldn't hide from it. Maybe, just maybe. I had to face it. And not here. Not on some empty highway under a broken sky. Back at the house. Back where it started. The idea made my stomach twist in on itself, but it also felt right. Like the only card I had left to play. I glanced at the mirror again. Still empty. But the breathing filled the cab, slow and relentless, syncing up with the beat of my heart until I couldn't tell where I ended and it began. Fine, I thought grimly. If this is what it wants, then let's finish it where it began. I turned the truck around. The tires squealed a little as I swung back toward town, back toward the house I had fled like a scared kid. The fields blurred past again, black and endless under the starless sky. I didn't let myself think too hard. Didn't let myself second guess. Because if I did, I might lose my nerve. And if I lost my nerve, it would win. Simple as that. The road unwound under my tires, familiar and strange all at once. Street signs I'd seen 1,000 times looked warped, bent at odd angles, like the world itself was buckling around me. Maybe it was. Maybe once you let something like that into your life, into your reflection, nothing ever looks right again. The clock on the dashboard blinked 4:13 a.m. Still the dead time. Still the hour when all the rules feel loose around the edges. When things slip through. When things come looking. The closer I got to my neighborhood, the heavier the air felt. Like I was driving into a thunderstorm that hadn't broken yet. The houses loomed in the dark, their windows black and empty, the streets deserted. Even the streetlights looked wrong, their pale yellow glow flickering like they couldn't decide if they wanted to stay lit or not. I pulled onto my block, heart hammering, sweat slick on my palms. There it was. My house. Squatting in the dark like something alive, windows blank, the front door yawning slightly open. Had I left it that way? Or had something else? Didn't matter. I was here now. No more running. I killed the engine and sat there for a second, gathering what little courage I had left. The breathing in the cab had stopped. I hadn't noticed when. The silence felt even worse, like the moment before a gunshot. I reached for the door handle, fingers trembling. I whispered under my breath, "Let's end this." And I stepped out into the night. The second my boots hit the driveway, the air shifted. It was subtle at first, just a slight thickening, like stepping into a room that hasn't been opened in years. Heavy, stale, charged. But with every step closer to the house, the feeling grew heavier, thicker, until it pressed down on my shoulders and wrapped around my chest like invisible hands. The porch creaked under my weight, the old wood groaning low and slow, like it didn't want me there. It was warning me. I ignored it. Or tried to. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn around, to get back in the truck and drive until the sun rose and burned whatever this was into smoke and ashes. But I kept going. Because running hadn't saved me last time. And it wouldn't save me now. I pushed the front door open with one hand, wincing as it swung inward with a soft whine. Inside, the house was pitch dark. Not nighttime, thicker. The kind of darkness that eats the light right out of the air. I stepped inside, leaving the door open behind me, because some small, stubborn part of me still wanted an escape route even if it wouldn't matter. The living room looked the same at first glance. Couch. Coffee table. That ugly old recliner I kept meaning to throw out. All in the right places, but wrong somehow. Like someone had copied my house from a memory and gotten the details just a little off. The pictures on the wall hung at slightly crooked angles. The TV remote sat upside down on the couch cushion instead of the coffee table where I always left it. The family photo on the shelf, the one with my parents and my little brother, had the wrong smiles. Too wide. Too sharp. The deeper I walked into the house, the more it felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. The house had moved on without me. I swallowed hard and kept going, each step echoing strangely in the too thick air. I didn't call out. Didn't say a word. Words felt useless here. Like they wouldn't survive the air. The hallway loomed ahead, long and dark, stretching farther than it should have, a corridor that had no business being that deep in a one-story ranch house. And at the far end of that impossible hallway, a faint, pulsing light. Pale, sickly, almost green. It leaked out from under my bedroom door, still halfway open, just like I left it. Or thought I left it. I clenched my fists, feeling my fingernails bite into my palms. That's where it wanted me to go. Where it was waiting. I knew it the same way you know a storm's about to break when the wind shifts and the sky goes wrong. But I didn't have another choice. Not really. If I ran, it would follow. If I hid, it would find me. This had to end. One way or another. I moved down the hallway, every step feeling like walking into deeper water. The walls seemed to pulse at the corners of my vision, breathing slow and heavy. Floorboards underfoot felt soft, almost spongy, like the house itself was rotting from the inside out. I reached the door. The light spilling out from the bedroom was stronger now, almost humming against my skin. I could feel it in my teeth, buzzing low and mean. I hesitated, hand hovering over the doorknob. And that's when I heard it. A voice. Low, smooth, familiar. My voice. Coming from inside the room. Saying my name. Softly. Lovingly. Like it was inviting me in. My stomach turned over, and for a second, the world tilted under my feet. But I didn't back away. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. And everything changed. The room was wrong. The walls stretched too high, too far. The ceiling loomed overhead like the inside of a cathedral, and the floor fell away in strange angles that made my head swim. It smelled like old mirrors and cold iron. And in the middle of the room, right where my bed used to be, stood a mirror. Not the cheap, cracked one from before. This one was massive. 7, maybe 8 feet tall. Framed in blackened, twisting metal that seemed to writhe if I looked too long. And standing inside it was me. But not me. The thing wore my face, my clothes, my smile. But the eyes were wrong. Too bright. Too sharp. Hungry. It raised my hand and beckoned, slow and sure. I took a step forward without meaning to, feet dragging across the warped floor. The mirror's surface rippled like water, and the thing inside smiled wider, showing too many teeth. I stopped just short of the glass, heart hammering so hard I thought it might explode. The thing tilted its head, studying me, waiting. I swallowed hard. "I'm not afraid of you," I said. My voice sounded small in the vast, breathing room. The thing's smile didn't falter. It raised its hand again, palm out, inviting, and the mirror's surface shimmered. Behind the thing, shadows writhed and coiled, shapes just out of sight. Other versions of me. Broken. Twisted, smiling too wide. I shook my head. No, I whispered. The thing stepped closer, its hand reaching toward the glass. And the mirror, the air itself, pulled at me. Gently at first. Then harder. I staggered forward, hands scrabbling for purchase on the slick, shifting floor. The pull grew stronger, dragging at my skin, my bones, my mind. It wanted me inside. Wanted to trade places. I dug in my heels, fighting the invisible current. I'm not yours, I growled, teeth clenched. The thing's smile faltered, just for a second, and I saw it. Fear, small, flickering. But there. It needed me willing. It needed me afraid. And I wasn't going to give it either. I forced myself to stand tall, even as the pull tore at me, even as the shadows in the mirror screamed and twisted and reached for me with hands that looked too much like my own. I'm not yours, I said again, louder, stronger. The mirror shuddered. Cracks splintered across its surface, racing outward like veins. The thing inside howled a soundless, horrible cry that ripped through the room and rattled my bones. I didn't stop. I'm not yours. The mirror exploded outward in a blast of shattered glass and screaming shadows. I threw my arms up instinctively, feeling shards whip past my face, nicking my skin with 100 tiny cuts. The sound was deafening, a roar like 1,000 voices crying out at once, full of rage and hunger and something else I couldn't name. When the noise finally died down, I lowered my arms and looked around. The room was in ruins. The walls were cracked and weeping dark, tar-like stains. The floorboards twisted underfoot, groaning with every breath I took. The ceiling sagged, like the house itself was exhausted from the fight. And the mirror, or what was left of it, lay in pieces at my feet. Shards of black glass scattered everywhere, each one flickering with brief, sickly light before going dull and dead. For a moment, it was over. For a moment, I thought I'd won. But then. I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye. Moving between the shadows, faster than it should have been. It wasn't done. Not yet. I spun around, heart hammering, searching the broken room. Nothing. But the air was wrong again, thicker, heavier, buzzing with that low, bone-deep hum I thought I'd left behind on the road. And then, out of the biggest shard of glass, the one lying at the center of the floor, something crawled. Something wearing my face. Only now it wasn't just a copy. It was twisted, broken. Like a reflection in a cracked mirror, all wrong angles and jagged smiles. It dragged itself up onto its feet, bones cracking and popping as it stood. It was taller than me now. Lean and sharp, like someone had stretched me out and filed me down to nothing but teeth and eyes. And it smiled. God help me, it smiled. It took a step toward me, slow and deliberate, like a hunter closing in on wounded prey. I backed up instinctively, feet slipping on the broken floor, heart slamming against my ribs. The thing tilted its head, studying me with those too bright, too hungry eyes. And then it spoke. My voice. But wrong. Twisted and hollow, like a bad recording played backward. Come back, it whispered. I shook my head, breath coming in shallow gasps. No, I rasped. The thing stepped closer. Come back. Each word dragged out, sticky and wrong, like it was pulling them through syrup. I knew what it wanted, knew it deep in my bones. It wanted me to give up. To surrender. To let it slip inside and wear me like a mask. But I wasn't going to let it. Not after everything, not after making it this far. I squared my shoulders, forcing my feet to stay planted even though every instinct screamed to run. You're not me, I said, voice shaking but steady enough. The thing's smile faltered, just a fraction. It didn't like that. Good. I took a step forward this time, glass crunching under my boots. You're not me, I said again, louder, stronger. The thing recoiled slightly, its shape flickering at the edges like smoke caught in a gust. You're nothing, I said, driving the words like nails into the space between us. You're a mistake. The walls groaned around us, the whole house seeming to shudder at my words. The thing howled, not with sound, but with pressure, a wave of pure rage that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. But I didn't back down. I kept moving forward, step by slow step, forcing it back. You don't own me, I said. You don't even belong here. The thing's form flickered faster now, struggling to hold itself together. Cracked spiderweb through its body, thin blowing lines that spread with every step I took. One more step. One more breath. One more truth. I am not afraid of you, I said. And with that, the thing shattered. It didn't explode like the mirror. It simply came apart, falling into pieces of light and smoke, dissolving into the air like a bad dream at sunrise. The pressure lifted. The buzzing stopped. And for the first time in what felt like hours, maybe days, I could breathe again. The house groaned once more, a deep, tired sound, and then went still. The sickly light faded from the walls. The warped floors straightened. The air cleared. It wasn't perfect, the cracks still spidered the walls, the furniture still sat at wrong angles, but it was real again. Mine again. I stumbled back into the hallway, legs trembling with exhaustion. The front door still gaped open, letting in the first faint hints of morning light. I walked toward it like a man in a dream, each step lighter than the last. Outside, the world looked normal. The sky was just starting to blush with the promise of dawn. Birds chirped somewhere distant but real. The air smelled like dew and cold dirt and the first tiny hints of spring. I stepped outside and let the door swing shut behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't have to. Whatever had been waiting in the dark corners of my house, whatever had crawled out of that mirror, it was gone. For now. Maybe for good. Or maybe not. Maybe it would always be there, just under the surface, waiting for me to slip up, to let my guard down. Waiting for a crack to crawl through. But I wasn't the same guy anymore either. I knew better now. I knew how to stand my ground. And sometimes, knowing is enough. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and pulled away without a backward glance. The town stretched out before me, waking up slow and sleepy, as if the night's horrors had never happened. As if the world had moved on. And maybe it had. Or maybe it was just pretending, same as me.